Welcome to Weekend Warrior Creative Lab. What you just saw was our brand new intro for season 2, I guess we're gonna call this. I don't know. And so that's what we're gonna talk about a little bit today, is sort of what we did to get there. And we made a list, kind of a master list of what we would like to do in this, upcoming episodes. And on that was create a theme song.
Theme song, small video for the theme song.
Because we did the original one, but it was like a stock track or whatever.
So we said, we want to keep it like under 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Was one thing. So it's not we could turn it into a longer song. I think you've already got sort of a longer version, right? But yeah, so we just focused on that, keeping it below 15 seconds. And so it was really a riff and an idea you came up with, which is really cool.
The origin of it, for me at least, I don't know how you create, but for me, there's a couple like main things. A lot of times I'll just sit down and like that's kind of the first thing that I play. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool, and then I'll build something around that. But one of my favorite ways is drums. When I hear drums, I hear arrangements. It just kind of comes that way. And that's one of the reasons why I love Brant's playing so much. Hopefully we'll get to him to do some more drum stuff coming up here. But like he's one of those guys that when he sits behind the drums, it's like, oh, that sounds cool. And, I can write something to that or whatever. But it was the same kind of idea for Christmas. I got some drum software. I'm trying to get back on the horse here.
So this is a Christmas song?
And I guess. I'm trying to get back into programming drums, and my buddy, Alex Melton, you still haven't met him yet. We need to tag him in this. I see what he's doing. But he's our local Florence YouTube icon. I mean, like, dude is just doing next level stuff. But he did a video about, because he's a multi-instrumentalist, and he did a video about programming drums, and he uses, it's called GetGood Drums, which is a great name, I think.
GetGood Drums.
GetGood Drums, GGD. Yeah. And I think it's a play, because I think the guy's last name is GetGood.
Oh, so it's Git, not Get.
GetGood.
Oh,
Get. I'm
from
the South. I'm from the South.
Well, right, but is his last name GetGood or GetGood?
GetGood, I think, but I don't know. Is that a real last name?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We used to have a family friend of my great grandmother's, and I just remember my sister and I laughing about her name because her name was Annie Bitgood, and we used to laugh about Annie Bitgood. Sorry, Annie, your memory.
Hey, Annie.
I think she died like when my mom was 6 or something.
But while she was alive,
she's been dead since like 1950.
She bit good while she was alive.
Annie she was a crazy cat lady.
There you go. With a name like that, you're destined for that. So yeah, GetGood Drums is the name of the software, and it is fantastic. Highly recommend it. I got their Modern and Massive pack, and Alex recommended that actually, and it's got some really cool stuff in it. And so one of the things that came with it is some MIDI sequences that they just give you kind of like to get started. And so I was just kind of like thumbing through the different drum sets, came across this particular drum pattern. It was just like, grabbed a guitar, immediately started doing some stuff. So that's the origin for me.
Right.
And it was just kind of a riff that went along with, kind of syncopated along with the drum stuff. But one of the things for me early on when I started like learning theory, I got really bogged down because when I started learning what things were, I was like, okay, everything's got to stay in this box. So I'd be like, okay, I'm in the key of whatever. And so I'd play, and if it wasn't in that key, then you can't play it, right? Which is not a jazz mentality at all. And so I don't know how you picture that kind of stuff, but I'm on...
Not very well. But...
I'm on the other side of that now. I'm trying to like just let my ear tell me what sounds good and what not.
No, theory, is a shortfall too. I mean, because that's always, I don't play good over chain. I'm not a jazz guy by any standard. I mean, I can play over.
You kind of are though.
Yeah, but no. I mean, not a real at all. But I totally understand what you're saying, and so I think in scalar or modal, a little bit modal.
Yeah.
But when you get complex chord changes, that's where I fall apart. Where I'll, a true jazz guy would just play, oh, that's a 251 and C and a 251 and one, 6251, whatever, which I understand, dominant. But it doesn't. Yeah. It's not innate in what I do, and it's not. Yeah.
And there's pros and cons of that, right? Because I think that to me, before I started learning theory, that was my mode. It just sounded good and that was cool. And then when I learned some theory, I was like, oh, okay, well I can't play that anymore because it doesn't fit in a box. And then it was like killed my creativity for a hot minute. And then now I'm kind of back around.
But your stuff feels modal to me, like what you're soloing and stuff. And you mentioned to me not long ago, the tonality of what you tend to do is more major oriented, which is interesting. And then what's his name? Christoph from Morgable mentioned that to you.
Yeah. He was like, usually it's super minor stuff. Right. But this particular thing, it sort of felt pentatonic to me, the first little riff. And then I was like, I want it to be kind of, something a little more interesting. And so I just literally dug around and added a little chromatic riff in there, and I was like, there we go, And so that was sort of the building blocks. Like you said, I was making it kind of like into a longer song, but I'd sent it to you, and you were like, let's just use that for the intro. So I was like, all right, cool. So we narrowed it down to whatever. It's short, right? 12 seconds?
I think with the silence at the beginning, and it's like 14.
I think so it's perfect 12, amount of time, I think. And so I sent it to you from across the street, across the yard, and you wrote a bass on it. You were like, I'm going to write guitar and bass. And then you were like, I think the guitar is kind of, because there's a lot going on.
I said, man, there's nothing that I couldn't possibly add to the guitar. It was just perfect. I mean, it's
thick. It's a lot happening.
Well, not just that, but number one is that, but two, it's not my style. I'd probably added something weird to it that wouldn't have fit anyway. But
well, let's talk about that, because what you did add was...
Yeah, I was kind of afraid that wouldn't fit, but
dude. And I'm going to be honest with you. I can hear the lab from my house, and I heard you playing, and I kept hearing notes that I was like, that doesn't sound like it would work to me. And I was like, okay, cool, because I knew you were working on it, and I was like, I was trying to listen, but all I could hear was your bass. I couldn't hear the context. So I was like, well, I wonder what's going on. And then when you sent it to me, dude, I was so pleasantly surprised. Good. Because
I was afraid you'd be like, nah, this is like some...
Well, let's get into what you were thinking, because it's completely opposite of anything I would have ever come up with. And I love that. I love that. I love that you heard that initial piece and were like, okay, no, let's do this, this, and this. So what when you heard it, now you said modal, and I wasn't thinking anything particularly when I was writing it, but it definitely, when you start breaking it down, it's got a lot of that kind of sharp 4 kind of thing, flat 5, whatever, going on. But what were you thinking when you heard it? What was your approach?
I was thinking along the lines of adding some contrary emotion, something that, like, some of the times where the riff would go up, I would go to just a standard technique, but some of it too, just doing
is that standard technique though? I feel like that's
just contrapuntal, whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like classical theory thinking. I love it, dude. I love it.
I don't know if I think that way. Write songs like that. Anyway, I was thinking that, and then some of the stuff, like the little chromatic ascending stuff in there, it just, I don't know, I heard it, and I heard it before in the song before I started playing. I said, that's what I need to do right there. I mean,
you just heard it.
Kind of one of those things. Yeah,
that's cool. That's very cool.
I think I work better like that. I can come up with a riff or two here or there, but if I've got so many riffs and just a bunch of junk that we need to collaborate on too.
Oh, we're going to.
Yeah, and because I've had it in my head since the 80s, some of it, and some of it has started with drums, like you said too.
Yeah.
But for this, I mean, I had basically the full song, so it made it even easier.
Right.
But I had to kind of disregard the bass that was there, and then just say, I'm going to do something different. And I don't traditionally hear just the, whatever root slamming on the root. I hear more of a melodic bass line. And as we've discussed before, I've been fired from bands because of that. But it's what your thing is.
Tell me what that's about though, because I think, that's something unique to you. And is that, in your mind, coming from guitar playing? Like, are you thinking as a guitar player and then just bringing everything down an octave?
No.
Or, so you are thinking as...
It may have started like that, but no, definitely not. I think it has more to do with influence. For whatever reason, I thought of Fretless for this song too. And my Fretless
Perfect
influences, love Jocko, but I can't play like him. So I don't tend to do the Jocko idioms. Some, I guess. Yeah. Everybody falls into it with a Fretless. But my guys for Fretless are Percy Jones from Brand X, and then Mick Karn, who did everything from new wave stuff like Japan, and then Dolly's Car with a different David Sylvan, and he did things with David Torn, just really experimental stuff. A band called Rain Tree Crow, but his approach was he was not a theorist at all. He was not a musically well versed, I guess you'd say, in terms of right. And I guess that was a source of pain for him, but he was able to write just the most intriguing, really snaky kind of sounding, spongy tone, melodies and stuff. And same thing with Percy Jones. Like Percy, he didn't care a lot about harmonies or something. He'd play something that was rhythmically really cool, but maybe the notes didn't exactly line up with what like in Brand X John Goodsall was doing or whatever. But so when I approach Fretless, those are the two guys that really are in my head, I guess you'd say. So
well, you killed it, man. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah, and the more I listen to that, the more I say, man, that almost sounds like a Mick Karn ripoff. But hopefully it's not. But it's very similar in tone to that, but as is some of my other stuff. But
well, it's interesting note choices. So let's mess with it a little bit. And I want to see what you're doing, because I mixed it when you sent me the pieces, but and then we did the video. We'll talk about that too. We'll put some clips of the making of the video in too. So I got to kind of see you doing it up close then, but I want to hear you do it and talk about it.
I'll be able to reproduce it, but let's see.
We can get close enough. So the original riff is. And so that to me was very kind of pentatonic-y. And then I was like, I don't want it to be that. And this was like, oh, okay, cool. So that was the chord. So I was like, okay, now I got something that I can chew on, because it doesn't seem so basic. That's the whole thing.
Right.
And so on top of that, for me, I added these little harmony lines that were, so there's your, so is that what gives you that modal, when you, in your mind, when you think modal, are you thinking?
No, I was more referring to the way that when you're soloing, the way that, just the way that you, seems like you envision the chords and the approach, you're thinking, I mean, I don't know. Are you thinking?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, for this one,
Mixolydian here and
and that's, I guess what I want to do is kind of get away from that too, and make it a little more spontaneous. But that's what I was hoping to do with this, and so I wasn't thinking anything. I was just letting the tone drive it, and then it kind of came up something interesting to me. Tell me what you think this is, because I was thinking about it earlier before I came over here, that the scale is sort of like. Some kind of weird
natural minor or something.
I don't know.
I don't know what.
It is weird, but it works, because then
Shouldn't
you got.
say that. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So you got. And then.
Yeah.
And then when you play it like that, it sounds very bluesy.
Right, but then when you
in the
play
middle
it all
of the
together,
thing, it's like whoa. So let's talk about what you were thinking. Okay, so you heard. And then right out of the gate, you did something that wasn't copying that.
So, I mean, I heard that, but so it makes sense for me to. Okay. Right? So, and I played with that at first, but then I said, what about if I did. So I'm actually, yeah, you're going up and
That's
I'm going
that
down.
contrary thing.
Yeah,
That's
just
so
what I was
cool.
thinking about. And then the second, what's the second little part of it? So right, so that over that I did the, it again, just that ascending chromatic thing that just kind of fits, and it
gives it that lean, that tilt that is so cool right there.
Yeah, that's what it was. All right.
And so tell me that, like that particular run, like what was that? Is that just like a stock lick you have in your arsenal? So you were like, let me pull this out, or were you fitting it into the thing? Because it's so left field for me, but I love it.
That feels to me like a Robert Fripp transpose from guitar, because he did some stuff that sounded like that. Yeah, I guess I heard what you were doing, and it just seemed it's just an augmentation of that.
Okay,
and again, you were ascending, and I was that was parallel motion, but still, I mean.
Yeah, love that.
And it's just one of those things where I don't know. It seems like you might play, but I feel like that repetition sometimes makes sense, and it just felt like it was a good place to repeat that, and just a rhythmic idea that I definitely use that often. So, yeah, hopefully not abuse, but yeah.
I thought it was fantastic.
Same with I probably have done stuff like that before, but I can't think of a specific instance in tunes.
Oh, it was the right time and right place in my mind. Talk about the second half, because you did those little scalar, little
Or I guess I did.
So what were you thinking? Yeah. So what were you thinking there, scale-wise? Anything in particular, or just? That's the part that I think is my favorite part of the whole thing, because it's so.
That's kind of. That's the kind of tonality I had in mind, but and then the
what the heck is that?
Sort of
That's great.
And it's just messing around. It's pseudo pentatonic though, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. It just.
And I'm not trying to put you in a box or cage or anything. I'm just curious, because I just thought it was so cool.
Mostly, I don't know what I'm doing. It just sounds
well. There you go.
Right, I guess.
And I love that. And I think that's kind of going back to what I was saying originally. Like the idea that you have to know all the things is false.
That's not true.
Right. And then I think not necessarily beneficial even.
Right.
Sometimes it's nice to not.
And I wish that one of the things back when I took guitar lessons, my teachers, when I was 10 or 11 years old, they got me. I can read for guitar like in the first position without thinking about it. I can just look at something and play
notation.
Nice, but only in first position, right? So you get into. I have to think about it if I get up or so. I'm like, okay, this is A. This is A. This is E. Whatever. I wish I had gotten into. One of my teachers said, you got to do the Berkeley Position Studies book, which I started into, and I was just like, but had I done it back then, I would just have opened up so many more doors. It's just such a struggle for me to, I got a bunch of music books that I go through, especially on acoustic, and it's just a struggle. So kids, learn your music, early. I mean, it really does if you can learn it early, you don't even remember doing it. And then it's just, you do it, your nature takes over and you don't even have to think about it. But I do. And then again, if I'm reading a score, and I can, of course, chord charts, whatever, but real book stuff, I'll sadly, I hate to admit it, but I'll work it out in first position by just looking in the real book. Okay, here's how it is. And then I'll be like, okay, so that's here. So it takes me, 10 times longer than anybody to do it. So it's pretty sad. So
well, I mean, it is what it is. There's a lot of great people who don't read, but we were talking about that Steely Dan documentary. Did you watch some of that?
Yeah, I did.
And they were talking about how that the the bands, you know, they would put together a band and there was no rehearsal. They would just throw music in front of them and say, go, you know? And so anybody who couldn't read was not even invited to the gig.
Yet you've got guys like, I've been watching a lot of Tom Bukovac stuff on YouTube.
He's not a reader, is he?
He actually, I didn't realize that, but he says, yeah, I don't like, you know, read music and all that stuff, but he knows scales and he knows where they fit in. And he does have an understanding of music, but he doesn't like, he's not thinking in terms of, you know, deep theory in a pedagogical sense. He's thinking he is, but he isn't, you know. But, and they say Wes Montgomery was like that. There's differing opinion on that, I guess, because he played some pretty complex stuff. But anyway, I mean, some people can probably hear that, because I mean, how did you know, a lot of people developed jazz harmony. It developed over time, and it was people that didn't necessarily understand all the intricacies of theory and how it all worked, but they just knew, oh, I can do this and it works. And that's kind of what I do. And I've developed boxes and ways that I see the fretboard, and I see, luckily guitar and bass are the same, you know, in terms of the strings. You get to more strings like a 5 and a 6, it takes a little longer, and of course the bass is, you know, doesn't have the odd interval like that does, but
well, the way I see it is that you need to have some of the theoretical knowledge because it's tools for your tool belt, right? So you can pull that out when you need it.
Well, right. You need to know where the notes are. When somebody says we're going to play a blues in A or whatever in G, you got to know where at least.
And the more tools you have, the more options you can pull from. But I think what it took me too long to learn was that, you know, that you don't need to lean on that. You know, you need to lean on your ear and, you know, what you're hearing primarily.
Well, and that's, I think, some of the best players anywhere that can handle anything and do anything have the approach. You learn everything, and then so it's second nature to you, and then you just do it. And that's what I wish I had done. Because to me, when I get out there and I'm actually playing at a gig or whatever, or when we're doing a final take on a song or whatever, I'm not thinking about all that, which I don't think anybody is, really, that anybody that sounds good.
Right. But sort of the posture of this YouTube channel is, you know, if all you got is weekends, let's do something, you know, let's make some cool stuff happen. So anyway, that's the new intro for the Creative Lab, and that's a little bit of kind of how it came together. We'd love to hear from you guys. One of the things that we have yet to really do is get a lot of engagement from the audience. There's not a whole lot of audience.
We got to get an audience.
Right, well, true. But the more we hear, the better. It kind of helps us figure out what's going on.
And hopefully the more videos we produce with real content, you know, with the good content, you'll get more. And it takes time. I mean, so but
let us know what you think of it, and let us know what you want to hear or see in the future. This is a lot of fun. All right, so subscribe if you haven't already, please, and we'll see you on the next one.